last night, man, things got real testy in the House Rules Committee when Congressman Maxwell Frost said something that I've often said on this show about Republicans saying, y'all really ain't pro-life. Watch this.
I got involved in politics when I was 15 years old because I didn't want to get shot in my school. There was a Sandy Hook shooting that pushed me into this work. 3 years later, a gunman walked into Pulse nightclub a mile away from where I was working and murdered 49 people and injured another 49. He didn't like them because they were gay and Latino. 3 months after that, I survived an instance of gun violence in downtown Orlando on Halloween of 2016. Hundreds of us running away from the gunfire. And that's after I had been involved in this work for three and a half years. You never think it's gonna hit you home, and then it hits your home. And then it hits the block you're on. 2 years ago, at the scene of 400 violent crimes, silencers were found. I just think it's despicable that the gun industry, the gun lobby, wants to push forth amendments like this that would result in more people dying just so they can sell more guns. No one on the Democratic side is advocating for anything crazy or radical. We want common sense gun reform that most Democrats, most Republicans, and most NRA members want. But it just goes to show you that organizations like the NRA don't even represent daily gun owners. They represent daily gun manufacturers and the people who sell the guns. They have no problems with more people dying as long as they can sell more guns. And if we want to talk about a safe America, over the last 3 years, because of the Bipartisan Safer Communities Act passed by Democrats, signed by Joe Biden, and the White House Office of Gun Violence Prevention, in the last 3 years, gun violence has gone down more than it has in our country's history. Cities of over 1 million people, gun violence has gone down 40%. This year, we're on track to have a reduction of 20% from last year. So we know that these solutions work, while of course respecting the rights of people, but also protecting the most sacred right, which is the right to live, the ability to walk down our blocks, go to our churches, our synagogues, our schools, our temples everywhere, and not fear being shot. And this false notion that you gotta pick one, you gotta either be for the Constitution or you're okay with people dying. I mean, it's just false. We are for rights, but we're also for making sure that the right to live is preserved. And that's been the fight of my life. That's why I came to Congress. And that's why I'm proud to be a Democrat and oppose this horrible bill.
Thank you. And I think that the theme that we are seeing is, you said it, a right to life versus their desire for profit. You just described that, and in this bill, that's what we see over and over again, the right to life, because you need the health insurance, versus the right for profit.
Yeah, see, they say they're pro-life because they want the baby to be born, go to school, and get shot in the school. Die in the school, die on the streets. No, that is what they say.
I'm not going to say anything, but you've gone over the cliff.
I move to strike his words.
Over the cliff.
Wait, you've gone over. We were going to be quiet, but you've gone over now.
You didn't use any.
I meant every word.
We are going to strike your words. But on the other hand, it might be good to leave your words. It might be good to leave your words. Because that's how you feel. But you are not going to come into this room and impugn our integrity. You will not. We are pro-life people from conception to natural death. Most of us are. And don't you come in here and say, we want to preserve life so people can get shot.
That's what I've seen.
Thank you.
Look, the point made there, Rebecca, is the one that I made on this show when I say these people are not pro-life, they're anti-abortion. And the reality is the actions that they take prove it every single day when it comes to their love affair with guns and the Second Amendment.
Night when you made when you had that conversation and you made that point, especially with talking to that very extreme pro-birth person who was in studio that night. Here's the thing about Max Frost. Like, I met him in 2016 when I was working for MoveOn.org, and I hired him as an organizer, organizing in the greater Orlando area.
I got involved in politics when I was 15 years old because I didn't want to get shot in my school. There was a Sandy Hook shooting that pushed me into this work.
Hey guys, we're playing the video. Okay, go ahead.
Yep. And then, so he talked about in 2015 what led him to get involved in politics. So I met him just after he graduated from high school. When he was turning 18. Here's the thing about Maxwell Frost. He is true to this. It doesn't matter what Virginia Fox says, whether or not, oh, you're trying to impugn us, you're going after our integrity. He's 100% right. He's arguing against the worldview that says we want to force you all to birth children, but then we're not going to do anything to make sure there's adequate health coverage, that there's adequate and affordable housing, that there is comprehensive and good and strong education. He's arguing against a worldview that just wants those numbers, and then they're trying to tie it to Christianity, but they're not doing anything to actually support people from the cradle to the grave. Instead, it's this performative politics that we're seeing in that particular worldview, saying that, okay, it's okay for us to do all these things that are against people having a good life while they're living, where they can actually flourish. So the thing about Maxwell Frost is the internet's forever. So it doesn't matter whether or not they keep it in the record or they strike it from the record. He's going to be in Congress, and he's going to have impact in Congress. And just hearing him talk through his personal story, his lived experience, and how Congress has failed to address the gun violence issue. And once again, what does this have to do with this bill? Why are those things being snuck into this bill? It clearly shows you that these bills that we're seeing with this particular worldview, it's a moral guide of where those particular people are, because they're not supporting everyday Americans.
Well, you're absolutely right. And Scott, I just think that's the kind of energy you need. Call them out on the issue and force them to have to deal with it.
No question about it. Where I come from, with that scenario that you just played, is called a hit dog will holler. And Representative Fox started hollering, but the brother, the congressman, was speaking facts. He wasn't throwing bombs. And you know what, Representative Fox? You don't like it, then prove him wrong. Vote for gun control. Vote for the assault rifle ban. Vote to get people off the guns off the street, whether you think it works a lot or works a little. And you and I, Roland, have talked, and I've said that the conservative right has abdicated their responsibility for the killing fields of our young children, black, white, yellow, and brown, and pledged allegiance to the gun lobby and to the Second Amendment, to the detriment of our children, and they will do nothing about it, and they can't defend it. And that exchange and that hearing, right, was just encapsulated what you said, what I've said, and all of us on these programs have said, and the Republicans just ignore it. They pledge loyalty to Trump and to the NRA, while the killing fields of our young people, the number one cause of death now, I think, for young people under 18 is gun violence. Think about that. That this is we call ourselves the greatest country in the world, and yet the number one reason our young people are dying are gun violence. That every day, maybe twice a day, we have mass shootings with weapons of mass destruction. That's shooting 2 people or more. We don't even report on it anymore.
Scott, 1 second. Matt, Scott, I got you. Hold on. Scott, hold on. Matt, you're there in Texas, and you got people like Lieutenant Governor Dan Patrick, Governor Greg Abbott. They love touting their pro-life credentials, but they are the biggest gun lovers. They don't support mental health budgets. They always talk about life, but they want to cut programs for food for kids. I mean, you got to challenge these folks on their hypocrisy.
You absolutely
Zach.
do, and I'm glad you mentioned it because State Rep James Tallarico, put up a clip this morning on Instagram that I saw, and he's a pastor, as you probably know, and he just talked about how if Christ were here, Christ would be not only mad about the fact that we're not doing charity, but he would be mad about the fact that we have to have systems for charity. And I really thought that was very impactful because it spoke to the idea that there is a wide gulf between the rhetoric and the reality with conservatives because they want to act like they're about life, but then they do things like get rid of SNAP benefits or take away money from people that need it in Medicare. I mean, that's really what is supposed to be a fundamental tenet if you are a Christian believer of how you move through the world. And we see that they are continuing to do things that are in direct opposition to that. And as it relates to Abbott and Patrick, both of them are bootlickers for Mr. Trump, as we know. But Dan Patrick is the worst of all of them because he's not even from Texas and he cosplays as a Texan and he cosplays as a conservative when he's really from Baltimore and, is really a former DJ. So, we don't take him seriously. And even he and Abbott, as you know, right now are probably not in each other's good graces because Abbott decided to veto that bill that he wanted to pass as it relates to marijuana. But the reality of it is it's all about rhetoric. It's not about the truth. And we see that in their actions, not in their statements.
Sorry, Rebecca. This is who these people are, and unfortunately, I just think Democrats are too often too timid to call them out exactly on their bullshit.
You got to speak truth to power because at the end of the day, we're all watching this and we're seeing people play in our face. So if elected leaders oppose what we perceive as what's being played out in our face, then they need to actually use their words and speak truth to power. One thing that even the Democrats need to consider, instead of saying, oh, well, you have to wait your term to get into leadership and it's by seniority, people like Maxwell Frost, people like Jasmine Crockett, those sound like the types of leaders that many Americans are looking for. Those are some of the people who might need to be running some of those committees or being the minority leader on those particular, minority chair on those committees because they're more reflective and more in touch with what the American public is saying that they're fed up about. So as much as possible, those are the voices that need to be amplified and not necessarily people who've been there for 60 years.
Hello, I'm Isaac Hayes III, founder and CEO of Fanbase. Listen to what I'm about to tell you. The window to invest in Fanbase is closing. We've raised over $10.6 million of our $17 million goal. That means there's room for less than 6,370 people to invest in Fanbase for the average amount. The minimum to invest in Fanbase right now is $399. That makes you an owner in Fanbase today. Go to startengine.com/fanbase to invest. Why? Because current social apps have taken advantage of users for far too long, with content suppression, shadow banning, harmful racist content, and no real tools for monetization and equity. Fanbase has over 1.4 million users and counting, allowing anyone to reach all their following and monetize their content from day one. Social media is the new TV, and whoever owns the apps that distribute that content have the opportunity to own potential billion-dollar companies. While big platforms with uncertain futures are failing to serve their users, Fanbase is stepping up to fill the gap. Don't wait until it's too late. Invest now, invest for yourself and your future. Go to startengine.com/fanbase and own the next generation of social media.